You made an incursion onto an enemy planet. You killed a Klingon patrol. Even if you got away without a trace, war is coming. And who's gonna lead us? You?
It looks like the Kelvin timeline might still be alive in Star Trek IV, but the sequel has been stuck in development limbo for years. It all started in 2009 with J.J. Abrams' Reboot, featuring Chris Pine as a new take on James T. Kirk. The first two movies did great at the box office, but 2016's Star Trek Beyond struggled financially despite decent reviews. After that, the focus shifted to TV with Discovery in 2017, and things got a bit murky for the movie franchise. But as some shows wrap up and new ones emerge, the chance for Star Trek IV is looking a bit better. Still, delays have kept the crew off screen for almost a decade, so time is running out. Here's everything we know about the movie. Let's kick things off with the latest on Star Trek IV. In a recent interview with Variety promoting his new NBC series Brilliant Minds, Zachary Quinto expressed that he's totally on board to return for another round as Spock. He emphasized how much he'd absolutely love to reprise his role, adding an interesting angle to the potential sequel. Quinto and the rest of the cast first brought the crew of the USS Enterprise to life in their youthful 20s, and now, if Star Trek IV happens, it'll be fascinating to see these iconic characters in their 40s or even older. But as Quinto rightly notes, aging characters is nothing new for Star Trek. It's part of what makes the franchise so enduring. Quinto mentioned there's no cutoff. The original cast did movies for decades, well into their 50s and 60s. The stories might be different. We might not be running as fast on other planets, but I think anything's possible. There's nothing more fulfilling as an artist than to come back to something after time has passed and cultivate a relationship with it from a completely different perspective. Chris Pine shares a similar sentiment regarding his role as Captain Kirk. Now in his early 40s, Pine is intrigued by the idea of portraying an older Kirk and how that character would evolve. At the Ace Superhero Comic-Con 2024, he expressed his curiosity about where the next chapter of Star Trek might lead, saying, "In terms of the next phase of Star Trek, obviously you're all fans, so I'm sure you've read it. We all like one another a lot. I'm good friends with everybody I've worked with. We have a great time doing it. I'm a lot older now, so I would be curious where that next story lands us in terms of what it would be and what we've said in the press. It's an interesting prospect to consider the characters we've grown to love grappling with new challenges that come with maturity. Just as the original cast continued to deliver compelling stories well into their older years, J.J. Abrams' crew could seamlessly transition into this next stage of their lives. For instance, in Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan, Admiral Kirk, played by William Shatner, celebrated his 50th birthday, proving that advancing age doesn't detract from heroism. Rather, it can add layers of depth to the characters, making them more relatable and grounded. This aging element could serve as a refreshing narrative device in Star Trek IV, providing an opportunity to explore themes of legacy, mentorship, and the struggles that come with growing older while remaining in a fast-paced universe. Think about how Kirk, Spock, and the rest of the crew could handle their new roles as leaders and mentors to a younger generation, perhaps introducing fresh characters while continuing to honor the legacy of those who came before. Beyond character development, there's also the opportunity to craft engaging storylines that resonate with both longtime fans and new audiences. The Star Trek franchise has always thrived on its ability to reflect contemporary issues through its science fiction lens. Whether it's exploring political tensions or the moral implications of technology, there's a wealth of material to draw from, especially with the world's landscape evolving rapidly. On the flip side, there's definitely some disappointment when it comes to Star Trek IV because we still don't have any solid story details. Sure, a few ideas have been tossed around in the past. One fan-favorite concept involved Captain Kirk traveling back in time to team up with his dad, George Kirk, played by Chris Hemsworth. But that idea got scrapped, and now it's a mystery whether any of those old ideas will make it into the current project. It's been over 8 years since Star Trek Beyond, and honestly, Star Trek IV is redefining development hell. Since 2016, Paramount has tried multiple times to get this sequel off the ground, with one version that would have brought Hemsworth back as Lieutenant George Kirk for that time travel team-up. There was even a Quentin Tarantino idea that involved adapting the Star Trek The Original Series episode A Piece of the Action, where a planet's society mimics 1920s Chicago gangsters. But for some reason, neither of these projects came to fruition. There were rumors that pay disputes put the brakes on the Two Kirks movie idea, which is a real bummer. Chris Pine's comments shed some light on why it's taken so long for a sequel to Star Trek Beyond. He mentioned that Paramount wanted Star Trek to compete with the big blockbusters from Marvel Studios. While Star Trek Beyond didn't bomb, it didn't perform as well at the box office as everyone hoped. That uncertainty about its box office potential might be why the various scripts for Star Trek IV haven't inspired much confidence among Paramount's executives. Ironically, the delays in getting a solid script led director Matt Shakman to jump ship to Marvel's The Fantastic Four: First Steps. As of now, Star Trek IV is still in the works, with new screenwriter Steve Yockey crafting a fresh adventure for Chris Pine's crew on the USS Enterprise. It's being touted as the final chapter of the saga that J.J. Abrams kicked off in Star Trek 2009, but details about its progress are still under wraps. The good news is that Chris Pine, Zachary Quinto, Zoe Saldana, Carl Urban, and the rest of the cast have all expressed their eagerness to return, but the wait continues. While the Star Trek movie franchise seems to be in a bit of a limbo, the streaming era has given the franchise a fantastic comeback on TV. The essence of J.J. Abrams' Kelvin timeline movies is definitely present in the new Star Trek shows. For instance, Star Trek Strange New Worlds features younger versions of Spock, Uhura, and Kirk, who were the main trio in Star Trek 2009. Plus, Captain Pike's Enterprise looks just as sleek and cinematic as the one from the movies. Shows like Star Trek Picard and Star Trek Discovery have tackled big movie-like stories over entire seasons. It's interesting to see how the uniforms in Strange New Worlds mirror the ones worn by Chris Pine and his crew. So, while Strange New Worlds sticks to an episodic format, the other shows have embraced that blockbuster vibe. If Star Trek Beyond is truly the end for the Kelvin timeline, its spirit lives on in the franchise's TV renaissance. The success of the Star Trek films showed there's still a strong appetite for Gene Roddenberry's vision, paving the way for the new adventures we're getting on Paramount+. So, while we're all itching for news on Star Trek IV, at least we have some incredible TV content to enjoy in the meantime. Even without Star Trek IV, a new era is dawning for Star Trek movies. Directed by Olatunde Osunsanmi and starring Academy Award winner Michelle Yeoh, Star Trek Section 31 is set to premiere in 2025 as the first Star Trek movie made exclusively for streaming on Paramount+. If it succeeds, it could pave the way for sequels and more Star Trek films on the platform, including a potential spin-off from Star Trek Picard called Star Trek Legacy. Meanwhile, director Toby Haynes is working on an untitled prequel movie slated to film in late 2024, aiming for a 2026 release to celebrate the franchise's 60th anniversary. And that's that for today's video. Thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next one. Your suggestions for future videos are always welcome in the comments below.